Hello, hello. Happy Friday, Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour audience. My name is Miranda, and I'm one of the hosts for Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour. And tonight we're having a special guest. Her name is Shana Rattler. She is an amazing, awesome businesswoman, and we are going to be interviewing her on tonight on her story. So thank you so much for joining us on tonight. Share from the page, invite people, comment, ask questions with this amazing business owner. She's a coach. She is a consultant. So ask questions again and share the broadcast. We are so grateful to have you on this Friday night. Shana Rattler, as a coach, consultant, and speaker, has helped celebrities, influencers, military officers, political dignitaries, pastors, corporate executives, and seasoned entrepreneurs achieve personal growth and organizational excellence. She and her businesses have received multiple awards. She has published 3 books and has been featured in over 250 media outlets. She is also the host of her own podcast, Faith First Leadership. Shana is passionate about helping others to develop a deeper understanding of God and the identity they have in Him. Her mission is to help leaders shift from burnout to where God needs them to be next to succeed in business and life. So, Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour audience, let's welcome Shana Rattler.
Hey, hey, hey!
Hi, how are you doing?
Girl, it's been rough. I shared with you backstage that the devil is busy, and I have been being tested in so many areas of my life, personally and professionally. And literally, as we are going live, I just got a text message that my uncle passed away. So I'm flying out in the morning to go check on my grandmother, who was rushed to the hospital yesterday. And now I just get a message that my uncle died. But guess what? God is yet able, and He will still get the glory out of this. And we're going to make it happen tonight.
We are going to make it happen. And I want to send my condolences to you and your family, praying that for peace for you and your family. So I am so sad to hear about your loss and your grandmother. But like you said, in the midst of it all, God is still able.
Yes, He
So
is.
we're
He's
going to
still
press
in
forward.
control.
He is still in control.
He's
He
still
is.
in
And
control.
thank you so much for still wanting to be on because we gave you the opportunity to say, you know what, are you still feeling up to this?
Yeah,
So thank you so much for still pressing through. So we're
absolutely. Can't stop, won't stop.
amen. And we're praying for you. So you
Thank
like to
you.
say, God is able. So we're going to believe God for his strength on tonight. So,
Thank you so
you
much.
know,
I appreciate
it was
that.
just so, when you talked about being tested and you're just constantly going through, as well, let's just start with that. I know we're going to start off talking about your business, but let's start with that since that's something that you've mentioned. How is that like just something that you notice that your clients are dealing with? They're just constantly being tested. Do you feel like that's a time when they come to you for help and for support for their businesses?
Most of them, yes. When they've already invested, they're like, listen, I'm already paying this girl to tell me what to do and how to do it. So no sense in me, living in the land of the unknown. So they rely heavily on me when they're going through things. But it's interesting how many people I talk to who would be prospective clients, if you will,
Mhm.
that want to rest on their own strengths and in their own talents and their own abilities, especially when they're high performing leaders, right?
Right.
Because we've always figured everything out before. So we just assume that we're going to be able to figure it out on our own now because we've always been able to been the type to make it happen. So
Right.
the clients who are currently in engagement with me, absolutely, they turn to me when they're feeling like they're being tested. But I'm always surprised at the number of people who do not reach out for help or don't even recognize that they need help. And I say all the time, like everything works until it no longer does. So then
That's
what?
good. Right. And so now they're scrambling. Now they're like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? And sometimes you may not be available at that time. So, like you said, they're just kind of floundering around trying to figure it out on their own. So then they come to you in desperation and, agony, like, I really need your help right now. And so I guess that can be a good thing for you and your business, though.
Yeah, yeah. Or, you're at a conference and you're speaking and you're having a conversation with someone and they're talking about what they're doing, what they're going through. And you're like, well, what are your plans?
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to pray about it. I'm just going to think about it. I'm just going to, I'll figure it out. And it's like, well, why would you not try to find someone who is 10 steps ahead of you, been there, done that, got the t-shirt,
Right.
and incorporate them into your strategy. It's not that you don't have anything in you that will help you get where you're going in this next season. But
Right.
why not let their, losses be your lessons? Why not let the bruises that they have on their foreheads, the scrapes that they have on their knees, like why would you not allow that person to make your path easier? Like don't go it alone and just struggle. And it's just crazy to me.
It is. And why do you think people do that? Like they just, they're just saying, I'm just going to pray about it. I'll just pray about it and see or whatever. Why do you think a lot of people, because I do notice a lot of people say things like that when it comes to
Absolutely.
business and things like that. Why do you think people have those type of beliefs?
Right. So let me first say, I'm not saying that you shouldn't pray.
Sure.
Right. So obviously, I'm a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I'm not ever
Yeah.
going to sit here and tell you that you should not pray.
Right.
However, sometimes prayer can become procrastination. And sometimes prayer really can just be, fear. Like we say it's faith, but it's really not our faith. It's really our fear. It's really us not knowing how to move forward. And so we think, oh, I'm just going to pray about it. Well, what
Right.
can you already do that God has already told you to do? Like, what can you already do based on what it is that you already know? Because guess
Right.
what? You can pray all day, baby, and He's still probably not going to give you every step. So if you're praying because you're waiting for the entire path to be laid out to you, first of all, that's dangerous because you probably would turn around and run for the hills. And then secondly, it's just not going to happen because He doesn't work that way. Let me just say, He's never worked that way in my life or any of the lives of the people that I know. But I think that sometimes we can just, our fear has Swarovski crystals on it, right? Especially if you're, bling bling girl like I am. Like you can just put some bling on it, and
Right.
it's real. It's really still fear, and it's really still, not your faith in operation.
Right. I was reading a book today from Tony Evans. He was saying that faith is our footsteps.
Yes,
We have faith, but in order to show God that we have faith, we need to start moving.
yes,
So instead of just like you saying, I'm gonna pray about it and just sit here and wait for God to give me the whole thing, start moving and doing what He asked you to do. What was the first thing He asked you to do? Like you said, start
absolutely.
moving, and then He will start implementing, giving you more steps to go as you go on, as you start making those moves.
And don't ask Him to order your steps if you're not going to move your feet. Oh Lord, show
That's
me what it is
good.
that you want me to do. Oh Lord, show me who it is that you're designed me to be. And then He shows you and you do nothing. Like that's a slap in His face.
Definitely is. Definitely is. So I just wanted to put this comment up. Kimberly was saying that she's praying for you and your family.
Thank
So
you, Kimberly. I
again,
appreciate that.
safe travels for you and your family. So, as we are moving into this interview, I know you have helped thousands of leaders and coaches and different things like that. And you have a podcast that you have where you're talking about faith first leadership. Why did
Mhm.
you decide to start the broadcast and why did you feel like it was necessary?
Well, podcasting is just the thing to do these days if you want to reach the masses. So
Right.
that's the biggest thing is, I'm always looking at how do I leverage my efforts. And, there's going to be some times that I'm going to be effective one to one, and there's going to be other times that I'm going to be effective one to many. And the podcast is an opportunity for me to be effective one to many. So that was the reason why I chose the platform of the podcast. But
Hmm.
I chose it because what I know is that there are so few high performing leaders that I have worked with, and I've been blessed to work with some really big names that do not know how to incorporate their faith into their professional roles and their decision making. And that's one of the things that I am not only really passionate about, but
Hmm.
it's definitely the current assignment that's on my life. When God called me to ministry in 2018, He said, listen, all of these, well, He didn't say listen, but you know what I mean.
Right.
What He said to
Right.
me was, the gifts and the abilities that you have used over the last decade plus to build a marketplace, I want
Hmm.
you to use those same gifts and abilities to build the kingdom. And the
Right.
specific assignment that He gave me was to help high performing leaders, because unless it's already in you, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like we get this martyr syndrome that we
Hmm.
can just figure it all out on
Right.
our own. And oftentimes when it comes to professionally, God is not what they put first. And it's my submission that when you put your faith first, that's when everything else falls into place, whether it's personally or professionally. And I'm really looking to create a safe space for high performing leaders that can learn exactly how is it that you put your faith first when you're uncertain, when you're stuck, when you don't know how to move forward, when you can't even admit that you don't have the answers. And so what I do during the podcast is we come on, and within the first 4 to 5 minutes, I teach a lesson on a topic that helps you to put your faith first. Then I interview a leader that gives you a little bit of insight into their journey of how they have been able to incorporate their faith into what it is that they do professionally. And sometimes it's an entrepreneur, sometimes it's someone in corporate, and then other times it's ministry leaders as well.
Wow, and that's so important, like you were saying, to put our faith first. You know, God is our CEO. He is the president. He is the one that's downloading these witty ideas. You know, like you said, when we pray and we're asking God, download a witty idea, Lord. And then when He
Yeah.
gives it to us, then we don't seek Him anymore after that. We just figure like we all got it all in control.
Yep.
We need
Thanks
to
for the instructions. I'm off.
Right. But we still need to continue to seek Him and ask Him questions and have His input. He's still in control. And we sometimes forget that because we feel like, okay, I got it now. God gave it to me, so I got it now. So,
Absolutely.
and that's so awesome that you have that platform in order to make sure that business leaders have that information. I know you speak a lot. I know recently, believe you had something in regard to burnout, or I know that was one of the topics that you had, faith and burnout. Why do you feel like this is such a great topic for leaders and pastors and those that are in business?
hmm Great question. So, burnout is something that has been real for a very long time. I read a statistic recently that, especially in the workplace, they're saying that about 80% of the workforce is experiencing some level of burnout. Now, there's degrees, there's levels to this, as they
Mhm.
say. But I think that stressors divide the crack that is already there. So, when you look at the dose of vinegar that 2020 has served up.
Right.
You killed Kobe Bryant. Like, Lord Jesus, y'all just don't get it. Like, listen, I'm gonna answer your question, but y'all, I love Kobe Bryant to the point that I named my dog Kobe. Right. So I
Oh,
digress. But anyway, but anyway,
you're not the only one.
right. So we lose Kobe, and then we have fires in California, and then we have a virus, and we have social injustice, and people are being murdered, and then they're rioting and they're protesting.
Right.
We're stuck at home, we're trying to figure out this new normal, we're trying to lay the steps for the next normal. And so you take that stress, and what could have been a small crack is now a huge crack. Like, I don't even think you can call it a crack anymore. It's like a valley. And
Right.
so burnout has always been real. Burnout has always been something that high performing leaders suffer from. But in the day and age that we're in now, it's just things that are just being piled on top of each other and being piled on
Right.
top of each other. And we're in
Right.
uncharted territory that we've never seen before. So before, you could Google, like, how do I decrease burnout? And it's going to say, all the stuff that's out there. Some of
Right.
it's good stuff. A lot of it is just a lot of
Nonsense.
it is not good stuff.
You're right.
But then you take the current stressors that there's very little articles that are out there yet, that are really helping you to understand how do you manage and how do you conquer this burnout when
Right.
you're experiencing something that you have never experienced before.
Exactly. We're in the middle of a alive and in color trauma. We're all going through a trauma right now. We're all experiencing some traumatic events, like you're saying. We're experiencing death. We're experiencing a pandemic. Our new normal is really different for a lot of people because they're used to leaving the house. They're not used to having their
Yeah.
children at home every day. So this has been very stressful and very overwhelming for so many people, and they're trying to figure out, how do I not lose it in the middle of all of this?
Right. And the other thing, Miranda, is that a God shift is going to be required. Right. And so that's what the gurus are not telling you, especially
Right.
for those of us that are believers. A God shift is going to be required. Now, even for those who, may not currently believe, or they may believe, but they're not sold out, the answer to everything that it is looking that you are looking to overcome. Lord, I don't know why I'm having such a tongue-tied night. So release that. But everything that it is that you desire is on the other side of your surrender. So it doesn't matter whether or not it is your burnout. It doesn't matter whether or not you are trying to figure out what to do with your life. It doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to figure out what to say yes to. I have learned that everything is on the other side of your surrender, and that a God shift is going to be required. So we may as well just figure out, how do we do that instead of just, sitting and staying stuck.
Right. And so what do you suggest of how do we do that? If a God shift is required, what is maybe one of the first steps that we can take in order to say that, you know what, I know this is what I was going to have to happen. You said surrender. So after we surrender, is it just okay, I'm going to surrender and just sit and fester, or what do you think we should be doing after we surrender?
The very first thing that I think we have to do is we have to ask better questions. And we have to ask, why is this happening? Right. And I believe that God is trying to get our attention. Anytime there's some level of disruption that's in your life, it's because God is trying to get your attention. And I believe that it's because we've been pursuing the wrong place. Now, for many of us, that place might be a physical place. Maybe it's a job and you
Right.
need to be in a different job. Perhaps you're in a job and you really need to be pursuing entrepreneurship. Perhaps it's a relationship, a mindset, absolutely anything that you're putting your energy into that is not on the path that God has designed for you. He's got to interrupt something, because I can tell you that in 2018, if God would have, if things would have continued to go well in my business, if things would have continued to go well in my relationships, and he would have come said, I'm asking you to preach my word, I'm asking you to to help me build the kingdom, let me show you what I would have done. Is he talking to you? Me neither. Right.
Exactly.
And so, and god
Yeah.
god knows what kind of girl he designed me to be. I ignore whispers. So, you can't whisper at me and get my attention for most things. You got to shake me, you got to yell at me. And so my opportunities, they had to dry up. My relationships had to dry up. I had to be hired for things that I knew I could perform well. And then all of a sudden they're not performing well. They say all the time, like, everything I touch turns to gold. Well, honey, everything I touched was turning to dirt. And it was because he had to use that form of disruption to get my attention, to show me that it was time to shift. So the very first thing that you have to ask yourself, Lord, what is it that you are trying to get me to see? Because if
Right.
you don't know that, coming to me to ask me what to help you do next is going to be very difficult. So one of the very first things that I do with all of my clients is say, now let's evaluate exactly what is going on in your life, and let's try to assess exactly what it is that God is trying to get you to see,
Right.
because then we can focus on who you have to become. And then we can focus on what it is that you have to do. But what we normally say is, Lord, what do you want me to do?
Right.
And
Right.
it's not that that's not valid, but that's like level three. You got to get past level one and level two before level three even matters. So
Right.
that's the very first thing, Miranda, is we really have to ask, why is it that God is trying to get our attention that we need to shift? Then we can start to focus, on shifting successfully.
Right. Like, what is he trying to work out of me? What are some things he's trying to? We talked a couple of days ago about on being on the potter's wheel. What are some things in me, some character flaws, maybe some things that I need to better get better prepared with, some education, learning some things. This is a great
Yes,
opportunity during this pandemic to learn some things, to take some classes, to read some books.
yes,
But what is, like you said, what is God trying to show me in this? Because, and God has done that to me. He's kicked me in the butt. I'm gonna use that word, and to get my attention and say, Miranda, you know what? You need to move away from that situation, that job, that environment, in
yeah.
order to move me to something better. And sometimes we're like, why? I'm good over here, Lord. Like, why are you doing this? But God is saying, I have something better for you. And a lot of times, if we're not really listening to God, like you said, we will miss it. And
Yeah.
there's so many other things He has for us to do.
And you touched on something that I think is so key, that I think that we should unpack a little bit more. Sometimes we're going to ask to let go of trash, and a lot of times that's easy. I mean, unless maybe you've been married to him for a long time. But other times we're going to be asked to let go of treasures. And
Mhm.
that's when it really requires your faith. That's when it
Oh
can
yeah.
really be challenging, when you're like, wait a minute, you want me to give up like my six-figure job? You want me to, get rid of my big house? Like, what do you do when it's like, okay, Lord, you're asking me to become something, and the things that you're asking me to release, it's not just the things that I recognize that don't feel good. It's not just those things that I recognize never should have been a part of my life anyway, but it's the good stuff. Right? Like, sometimes you're going to have to let go of treasures in order to really get on the path that he has designed for your life.
And that's so awesome that you said that because, I've been married before and I've divorced. And so I'm losing house and the car and the status and the this and you're kind of under like, Lord, are you punishing me? Why? And a
Yeah,
lot and for me, sometimes God allows certain things to be taken or you lose certain things because we value them more than him. We have them on a pedestal over him, like we have him up here and God is kind of down here somewhere. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm a jealous God. We're not going to play this game. You're
we're
doing
not
too
doing
much.
this.
Let me go ahead and take that. Okay, you still acting up. Let me go ahead and it's not to punish us, but to put us to where we need to be in a place
Absolutely.
where we can receive what all he has for us because he wants better than those things because he can give us that house and some. He can give us
Yes,
better.
yes. He's concerned about restoring order.
Right.
So, I personally believe that that's one of the primary reasons that he allowed the pandemic, the virus
Mhm.
to sweep the world as it is. Because, like you said, we're putting all of these things before him. Oh, okay. You want to put the NBA before me?
Right.
I just shut the season down. Oh,
Right.
you want to put your concerts and your friends and whatever your thing is, because we all have our thing. Okay. Well, let me just shut all that down where you have no choice but to look to me. And now let me reestablish the order. And now let's get on with the business with the business at hand.
Right. And that's just so important. So, I mean, and everyone, if you're just now joining us, we're talking to Shana Rattler. She is a business coach. She is a consultant. She helps leaders and speakers and celebrities to walk into their purpose, to discover their purpose, to find out what they need to do in order to be where God wants them to be. So, we're talking about business strategies. We're talking about being unstuck. We're talking about being in a pandemic and how we can use this time during the pandemic to get back on track, to get to a place where God wants us to be in order to fulfill his purpose and his calling. And a lot of times, and we were discussing, and if you have questions for Shana, please put them in the comments. Please ask, please share. We want her to be able to answer your questions, but a lot of times God will shut our lives down in order to get our attention. Like you said, oh, you're not spending time with your kids. Oh, I know they're going to be homeschooled. You're going to have a lot of time with your kids. Oh, you're going to all these restaurants all the time. Oh, now you're going to have to cook at home. Now you're going to have to be at home with the kids. So, it's just so interesting that, the whole world is being shut down in order
Yeah.
to bring us back to some type of, I don't know if I can say normalcy or just like family time, intimacy, just
Yeah.
seeing what's really important.
Getting back to what matters. Sometimes we got to go back to the basics.
Right. Getting back
Sometimes
to
it's not
the basics.
about learning something new. Sometimes it's not about doing something new. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's about getting back to the basics and making sure that there are no cracks in your foundation. And if there are,
Right.
let's seal them up and then build.
Right. Exactly. So, and with business leaders and different people who want to or that are in business and they feel like, what? How do I know this is my time? How do we know or how can people identify that now is the time to shift? Now is the time to go ahead and shift gears in order to go in that direction of starting that business or writing that book or doing, just getting into position for what God has for them.
I think, Miranda, oftentimes there's a knowing. Like there's something in your belly that needs to be birthed.
Right.
Sometimes it is an intersection of your passions and your pains, like those things that you find yourself complaining about all the time, or the things
Wow.
that you're like, why didn't they just do it this way? Or things that you wish that you could change. When
Right.
you think about Gandhi talking about being the change that you wish to see in the world. So
Yeah.
some of those things that you would like to see are usually things that you need, that how do I want to say this? The things that you would like to see happen are oftentimes the things that you are designed to be the solution for.
That's
Like
good.
you're being developed to be the answer for that thing. That's why it agitates you so, right? You've
Yeah.
got something in you that is going
Right.
to help that situation become better. So sometimes it's just a knowing. Sometimes I just can't explain it, but everything just
Yeah.
feels off, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so to me, that's when it's time to go, okay, are there things that I'm tolerating that I should not be tolerating? Would I continue to do this job every single day if they weren't paying me? Could I see
Right.
myself continuing on this same path for the next 10 years?
That's true.
And I think that those are some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves so that we can determine this crossroads that we're at. Do we stay on the same path or do we take a different direction? And
Right.
again, sometimes I think it's going to be a knowing, and then sometimes it's going to be a rub.
Right. Right. Like a nudge, like God is just like kind of pushing you and saying, hey, pushing. Maybe a lot of times what people too is doors start opening, or maybe doors start closing, like jobs, you lose your job. So that might be a sign, like, what, go ahead and start that business, go ahead and write that book, go ahead and start on that business plan. So like you said, it can be a rubbing, like, I'm going to disconnect you from certain people.
Hmm.
You're going to move to a different state, like you said, if you would have known, about your business and different things like that, relationships being lost. I think those are also telltale signs of, you needing to shift or move into another direction.
Yeah. When what used to work is no longer working, that's an obvious
Right.
sign that it's time for you to shift.
Right.
Especially when you know that you're the type of person that's been able to make it happen. Because I was the queen of, I'm going to figure out what it is that I need to do. I'm
Right.
going to figure out how you do it. I'm
Right.
going to put it on my vision board. I'm going to
Right.
map out the steps. I'm going to hire a coach.
Right.
I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to speak it into existence. Like I can
Yeah.
make it happen. Like I've
Yeah.
always been able to make it happen. Well, what happens when you are no longer able to make it happen? So
Wow.
when you find yourself in that space, because it was definitely my story, that
Hmm.
was a sure sign for me. It's time to shift, because when people hire you to do things that you know you do well, like you
Hmm.
weren't even seeking this out, but the word on the street is that she's pretty dope in that area, and then
Yeah.
they hire you and it's like wah wah wah, and they're like pulling you to the side like,
Wow.
oh, what's up? Like
Right.
they said you was the one. What we doing? And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't
Wow.
know.
So that's a sign of shifting. It's like when
Absolutely.
what used to work out no longer works out. What used to go well no longer goes well. That's when it's time to shift. That's when it's time to make a move. That's when it's
Absolutely.
time to say, you know what? There has to be. And how can, so if that happens, like you said, this is something you've been doing for years, right? You've been doing this for years. It's working for you. It's no longer working for you. I know, I believe for some people, possibly fear rises up, anxiety rises up, like, oh my goodness, how am I
Mhm.
going to survive? How am I going to live? Are there some things that you can share with us that you maybe share with your clients to help them to start doing some self inventory, some self discovery in order to get to rebrand themselves or reinvent themselves at that time?
Sure. So the very first thing that we have to do is we have to focus on recognizing that our shifting season is going to be more about who you need to become than it is of what it is that you need to do. I
Okay.
say we first have to shift our focus away from task and into role. Because when we say, God, what role do you want me to play in the earth? The doing usually comes out of that, right? If we focus on what do I need to do? What areas of my life do I need to focus on to become a better version of myself? Then you're in a better position to identify what it is that you need to do. From there, I think we have to look at, what is it that you really want? In the different areas of your life. When you look at your relationships, when you look at your spirituality, if you don't know what you want, you definitely don't know, how to get there, and you don't know if you're getting, if you're on the right path or if it's time for a course correction. But once we establish what it is that you want, then we can create a plan that you can pursue with a passion.
Okay.
And you
And
would be surprised how many people really don't know what they want, not down to the cellular level that it takes for execution, because it's not enough just to say, I want a business. Well, who do you serve? How do you serve them? How do you serve them in a way that's different than the products and services that are already out there? So we can know what we want from this broad level, but if until we drill down to what it is that we want on a cellular level, it's very difficult to create an effective plan for execution.
wow, that's such rich information. So, audience, if you all are ready to start your business, if you all don't know where to start, how to get started, and you're stuck right now, Shana is the lady who can help you get unstuck. She is going to help
I can
you
get you there.
She can get you there. She's going to give you the steps, the tools that you need in order to get unstuck and to help you to get to where you need to be in order to start your business or to write your book. Like I said, she's a consultant and a coach. What other services do you offer as well with your business?
That's a good question. So the primary thing that I do is people come to me and they're like, okay, something's off. And it usually looks like the form of burnout, right? Especially, they see my website and stuff and they're like, oh, she helps high performing leaders overcome burnout and yada, 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 yada. And so I know that burnout is a sign that you need to shift. But one of the steps in the process is for us to identify where do you need to focus your shift. And for some people, they need to develop a deeper understanding of who God is and the identity that they have in them. And so I have a personal development and a spiritual development program called Destiny on Demand that people work with me in that capacity. Other people, they say, listen, I want to take the skills that I have developed in the workplace and I now want to be my own boss. I want to be able to get paid for the level of expertise that I have. Right. And I have a business program. I call it B.O.U.G.I.E for short because it stands for Business Building Blueprint for Bible Believers. Oh. And basically what we do is we look at how do you build a business God's way. So the very first module, before we even get into, where do you find them? What do you say to them? How do you close them? How do you serve them? All the different things that it takes to build and grow an effective business. The very first thing that we look at is how does a Christian CEO operate different than the CEOs of the world? And so I'm really looking at, because there's a lot of people out there that can help you get your personal life on track. There's a lot of people that are out there that can help you start a business. I'm interested in working with those people that want to put their faith first and that they want to do things in a way that pleases God. And the reality is that I think sometimes we only think about how we please God in our personal lives and our spiritual relationship, our vertical relationship with Him and our horizontal relationship with others that we communicate with. Right. But how often do we think, how does God want me to build this business? How does God want me to operate as the CEO that He has selected to run this business? And I think that that's one of the things that makes my programs unique is because one of the things that makes my programs unique is because we really do focus on how do you do that from a biblical and Christian perspective.
That's so awesome because a lot of people, like you said, there's so many coaches out there, life coaches and business coaches. And this is my first time ever hearing it from that perspective. Just starting out with the foundation of where is your spiritual thermometer or your spiritual temperature? Where are you? How can I gauge you? Do you put God first? What are your expectations? What are you doing? And, is God even a part of your business decisions, your business plan, your business makeup? And that's so good because we have to put Him first in every area of our life, not just, like you said, going to church and our marriages and our children, but even in our business. And so I know you mentioned something which was really good. You said, how are the people that you work with, how are they different from just a regular secular CEO? So give us one example or a couple of examples of how are they different? What makes them different?
Well, the very first thing that we do is we recognize that we're really not the CEO. You said it earlier, like God is the CEO and we seek Him out. I pray, Lord, give me the strategies. I don't just, now let me say that since from 2007 until now, I've been in many programs. I have spent well over $200,000 in coaching and in programs and things of that nature. So I'm not diminishing investing in training because I think that you do have to have knowledge to know how to apply it. But for me, my business is always better when I rely on what it is that He wants me to do and how it is that He wants me to do it. And I will tell you that for my own business and for many of the clients that I have worked with, that's how, one of the things in B.O.U.G.I.E, the U stands for unbothered. And that's one of the ways that I know that I have not allowed myself to get bothered when things don't go the way that I thought they were going to go. If a campaign doesn't perform the way that I thought it was going to perform, because if there was something that He told me to do, it's going to happen, whether it's going to happen in the way that I think it is going, to come about or not. But when
Right.
I really take the time to say, Lord, if I chase you, I don't ever have to chase money.
That's so good.
I have made more money in my business when I have said, Lord, let me chase you and you'll give me the money. When
Wow.
I recognize that every time that I show up and say yes to you, those that are assigned to my yes show up. And that's the big difference. And it's not that you can't be successful if you don't do those things, but I would like to submit that you're not going to be as successful as you could be, or it's not going to be sustainable if you are only relying on your own efforts and your own direction. If the only board of directors that you have is yourself, or the people in your mastermind, and I'm not diminishing masterminds, I've learned a lot, and some of my best friends that are in my life now came from a mastermind. But if your only board of directors consists of yourself and your colleagues, and God is not sitting at the head of that board of directors table, I just don't think your business is ever going to be what it has the potential to be.
Right, right, because God placed in all of us, the vision. He created us for purpose on purpose. We're not created by accident. So there is a reason why we're all here, and it's God's plan. So we have to tap into the Creator in order to get that information, in order to know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And I know you were saying masterminds for people who may not know what is a mastermind. We were saying you have your masterminds. What does that mean?
So, a mastermind in the business perspective is
Mhm.
when there is a group of like minded people that have the same common goal. And you're working together. Think of it kind of like a cohort. So,
Mhm.
you may be in a 12-month mastermind with 12 other entrepreneurs. And there's
Oh,
usually someone who is the leader that is guiding what it is that you're trying to learn, that is guiding the conversations to help you accomplish whatever the overarching result or goal of the mastermind is. But you can think of it like a cohort of a group of people who are all looking to accomplish the same thing. So
oh,
maybe we're all currently at six figures in our business and we're looking to go to seven, or we're at seven figures and we're looking to go to eight. And you get very closely connected with these people because you're connected in different ways, both online and offline, throughout the duration of the mastermind. And there can be masterminds that are not business related.
okay.
I think that the concept of the mastermind came from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Now I might be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. So I mean, and I think that's so important that we need to be connected to a group of like-minded people. So we need to be connected to people who are trying to go the same place that we're trying to go to the same level. We need to be connected to other eagles, because they're trying to
Absolutely.
go up. We're trying to go up instead of trying to stay down here with the pigeons or the chickens. Let's all go up together. Let's share. Let's give each other some ideas. Let's push each other. Let's grow and let's build together. So is that pretty much what you're saying? The gist of a mastermind or a cohort is?
It absolutely is. And let me add this to what you just said, Miranda, because that's very true. But I also think that we have to surround ourselves with people who are on a different level, right? Because if we're all at the same level, it's very difficult for any of us to go along. Now,
Yeah.
typically the leader, is a little bit further ahead than
Okay.
you are, but it's important that we surround ourselves. There's a saying that says that if you're the smartest person in the circle, you're in the wrong circle, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so I say you need to find someone who's been there and done that, who's 10 steps ahead of you, and pay whatever it takes to work with them. Sometimes you're going to be paying in your time. Sometimes you're going to be paying in your serving. And sometimes you're going to be paying in your actual dollars. But
Right.
find someone who has already done what it is that you're looking to do, and then do whatever it is that you have to do to be able to learn from them. Because it's going to shorten your learning curve. It's going to decrease the amount of time that it's going to take you to accomplish your goal. And it's
Right.
absolutely going to decrease the amount of money that you're going to have to spend because you're going to learn from their mistakes. And you
Right.
wouldn't say, okay, well, let me just go build this house and then get the blueprint later. But I can guarantee you that we do that in business. Oh, well, let me just try to build it on my own first. And then if it doesn't work, I'll go get a coach. Well, why would
Right.
you want to waste all that time and waste all that money? That's just asinine.
Right. It is. And it's just like, why would you, like you said, waste all that time? So what do you say? And, again, the Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour audience, we're speaking with Shana Rattler. She is a business coach. She is a consultant, and she helps those to reach their purpose through strategy and giving you the tools that you need. And you can hire her. And where can they find more information about you, or where can they go to seek your services?
Absolutely. So if you know you're ready to move, right, you can actually schedule a free session with me. You can go to shiftstrategysession.com. Like if the things that we are talking about have resonated with you and you're like, listen, I already know I'm ready to move. I already know that there's something that I need to do. I just don't necessarily know how to do it. Then schedule a session with me and I'll be happy to see, what ways that I can serve you. The other way is that if you really want to go deeper in this conversation of being able to shift successfully, I actually have a webinar that's called Conquer Burnout and Get Unstuck Now. And we're really going to be looking at what are the top 6 things that will be required in order for you to regain your enthusiasm and actually step into another dimension of success. It's about a 40-minute training. It's free and it always will be. They can go to thepoweroftheshift.com. That's thepoweroftheshift.com, and they can go a little bit deeper in the conversation that we have had tonight. But if you're somebody that you're ready and you don't want to just talk about it, you want to be about it, then let's hop on the phone and see how I can help move you forward. And you can do that at I think it's shiftstrategysession.com.
Okay. So thepoweroftheshift.com, is that one of the, what
That's
is that?
the training. Yes, yes. But if you're like, listen, I don't need you to tell me nothing else. I don't need any more theories. I just need you to help me put together a plan and help me execute it. If that's you. Now there's only one of me, and obviously I'm going to be on the road for the next couple of days. So I'm going to say this with love. Don't waste my time. So if you know that you just want to, well, I don't know, that didn't work well for me. Like if you can't tell anything else, like the B in bougie is bold, I'm bold, baby. And this is not the place to play. So don't come to me if you just want to talk about it. Don't come to me if you want to ask me what to do. And the next time I talk to you, you still haven't done anything. So if you know that you're ready to actually take some massive action to have some massive results, then I'm your girl and you can get on the thing. But if you know that you're one of those people that like to hem and haw and drag your feet, this ain't the campus for you, nor am I the coach for you. I'm probably going to hurt your feelings.
Well, you know what? You know what? Bam, boom, bam. Okay.
Oh,
I like that.
listen,
Look, she said, if
2020
you're not
came
ready
to
to,
play. 2020 came to play. I didn't come to play, and I hope the listeners didn't come to play either. So if
right.
you are really ready to take some drastic results so that you can see some, make some drastic changes so that you can see some drastic results, then get on the phone with me and I can get you there. But if you're, I don't know, yeah, this ain't the campus for you, boo.
You got to be ready.
You've got to be ready.
You got to stay ready. Don't get ready. You got to be ready.
Right,
When you call Shana, you can't
right.
get ready. You got to be ready. So her website is shiftstrategysession.com.
Yes,
Reach out to her if you are ready to move forward. You've been sitting on this thing. You're like, look, I just need you to help me catapult this thing to the next
yes.
level. I'm not like, I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm not
We
sure.
bold around this camp. We bougie. We bold. We are unbothered. We are one of a kind. So you just have to get moving. So
Yes. So
we
I'm
just
not ignoring you, but right now I actually have to make myself unavailable for the next couple of days because, like I said,
yeah.
my grandmother was in the hospital and I've got to fly out in the morning. So I don't need anybody to be able to book a call with me tomorrow when I'm supposed to be on an airplane. So let me just
Right.
make myself unavailable on my calendar right now for
Right.
the next
So
couple of
she
days.
will be.
And trust me, when I go to Podunk, Illinois, I might not even have no phone service, child.
Oh
So let me
no.
just take a second and just put myself off until
Right. So give Shayna a couple of days, audience, to just to
Well,
go see her
now I've
family. And
taken myself off. So
okay,
when
good.
you go to Shift Strategy Session, one of the things that it's going to do is it's going to give you a link to my calendar so that you can
Okay.
schedule a time that works with you. And I just put myself off for the next couple of days, so you wouldn't even
All
be
right.
able to book during
So
that
she
time.
won't right. So you
All
don't even
about
have to worry about
systems.
it.
We're
It
gonna
has
put
to
some
be.
systems in place.
Everything has to be in order. Order. Like you said in
Order.
the beginning of this conversation, order. God uh allows things to happen so we can get order, so we can
Yes,
be in order, so we can put things in order. So you have to be ready, and she will be ready when you schedule your appointment. So
I'll be ready.
we're excited to have you work with those people. So if you all are ready, please reach out to Shayna, such an amazing woman with such a wealth of information. I will be one of those people reaching out
Amen.
to move forward. So can you give us some tips? A lot of times people, they at one point they were super excited about, moving forward with whatever God has for them. And sometimes they get complacent, like they start losing that fire, that enthusiasm. Are there some strategies or some tips that you can help those to rekindle that fire about what God has given them that was once passionate to them?
Absolutely. Number one is that we cannot forget what he promised us.
Mm.
And we have to recognize that the promise is not always going to come to pass in the timing that we would like to come, would come to pass. Man, if I wouldn't attach to these earbuds that don't match my outfit, I would get up and run. But
Me too.
the number one thing to recognize is that if he promised it, you will see it, even
Yeah.
if it's not in your timing. And sometimes we just have to get a level of fortitude down in our spirit that says, I'm going to keep going even when I don't feel like it. Right. But then outside of that, it goes back to what we talked about. You have to be able to identify exactly what it is that you really want and then create a plan that you can pursue with a passion. And if you don't know how to do that, then you need to incorporate someone into your life that has done that before that can help you do that. But when you're looking at like, how do I get my enthusiasm back? Ask yourself, what have I been tolerating that I should not have been tolerating? Sometimes it's because you've been tolerating behaviors from other people. And then other times it's because you're tolerating things that you're doing yourself. It's a self-inflicted wound.
Wow.
So, have I lost my enthusiasm because I've got a lot of crap in my life that should not be there to start with?
Wow.
Like what do we need to get rid of so that we can get back? Right?
Wow.
So, what have I been tolerating? What do I really want? And then let me put a plan in place to get what I want. And once you get some of that mess out of the way is when you can really get into your ministry. And I'm not talking about, just, a ministry in the terms of, preaching. Your ministry could be your business. Your ministry could be being a great mother. Your ministry could be being a great wife. But until you get that crap out of there that's not supposed to be there, of course you're not going to be enthusiastic. Of course you're not going to be passionate. Of course you're not going to have any zeal. Then you can say, okay, I got a lot of this crap off of me now. I can actually remind myself of what God told me. And now I can say, okay, let's go.
Shake the shoulders off, shake it off,
Let's
right?
go. It's like an etch a sketch, right?
Yeah.
You remember the etch a sketches that we
Yeah.
had?
Yeah.
Some people might be too young for that, but I'm kind of old now. So you remember, like, you got the etch a
I
sketch,
know.
and then
I
when you
have
didn't
one.
like it, you just shake it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when that crap is in your mind, when those negative thoughts start to creep in, when the devil is telling you what you're not going to do, that's nope, 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 nope. And then once you
Right.
get all out of that, well, now I can go back and draw what it is that's supposed to be here.
Right.
Right?
Right. That's so awesome. I mean, like you said, getting rid of the toxicity, getting rid of the negative people, the negative relationships, the baggage, all those things that are holding you down. Like you said, letting go of those things that easily beset us, those
Yeah.
weights that
Yeah.
have been holding us back and hindering us from moving forward, from pressing forward to those even not even those things, tangible things, those the mindset as well. Those negative thought patterns, those negative ideas, those the negative, I can't do it. I don't know. Nobody in my family has ever done it before. I'm the first one. I don't know, or whatever. Like you said, that I don't know, but it's about moving forward.
And Miranda, you said something that is so key that we have to learn how to master our thoughts. We have over 60,000 thoughts that come into our mind every single day. And I've read that
Wow.
80% of them are negative.
Wow.
So you can't control the thoughts that come into your mind, but you can control the ones that stay.
Sure.
That's where that etch a sketch comes in. Nope.
Yeah, shake it off. Shake
Nope.
it off. Like, nope, I'm
Nope.
not a loser. I'm not a failure. Yeah, I might have lost that job, but God's going to bless me with something else. Maybe that
Yeah.
wasn't it for me. That relationship ended, but God has something better. Like you said, don't hold on to it, but shake it off and replace it. And it's also good to replace it with something positive. Like,
Replace it with the word. Like, what does the word say?
right.
You know what I mean? My child is acting a fool, but the word says that the fruit of my womb is blessed.
Right.
Right? Like
Right.
you have to be able to recognize that it's not just about what you see in front of you. Sometimes you have to say, what does the word of God say about what it is that I see? What does
Right.
the word of God say about what it is that I'm thinking, and be able
Right.
to replace that? Because there's a lot of people like, oh, well, you need to have your affirmations, and I have affirmations, but guess what my
Right.
affirmations are? Scripture.
Yes. They have to be.
Now, yes, you can say, I am powerful. I am born for this.
Mhm.
You can have some things that are not, oh, well, it says in Psalms 18 and 12. It doesn't always have to have that, but you really need to be able to stand on God's word and know what it is that God says about you,
Yes.
so that you can start knowing what you believe about yourself and can start retraining your brain and
Right.
being able to replace those thoughts. And it takes
Right.
practice,
Right.
it's building a muscle inside of you to be able to press pause on those negative thoughts and be able to press play on something that's going to move you forward more powerfully.
Right. And it's so important, like you said, to stand on God's word. It's always good to give the enemy back the word and say,
Yes.
no, it's not that. This is what the word says. God said. And sometimes it's even good for us to remind God, God, you promised me double
This
for
is
my
what you
trouble.
said.
You said I was going to get beauty for ashes. You said that you would restore everything that
Come
cankerworm
on
stole.
now.
You said,
Yes. This is what you said, Lord.
right. So
And
I'm
you told me
reminding
that your
you,
word does not come back void.
right, you're
So I
not
don't know
void.
when you're going to do it, but I know you're going to do it because this is what you said. And I'm asking you to continue to show yourself faithful because this is what you said. You said it 2,000 years ago. So I'm waiting.
I'm waiting,
Do what
like you
you
said.
said.
And that's what you said in the beginning. Don't forget what he promised.
Don't forget what he
You know,
promised you.
because that's what keeps us energized. Like, oh my goodness, he told me that I was going to get a cattle on 1,000 hills, whatever the promise is that you're holding on to. He said that he was going to restore, and this is so good for me as well because, I can look back and say, God, you told me, and could have been 8 years ago, you said I would get double for my trouble. You said that you would restore beauty for your ashes. And I'm still waiting on that promise. I'm still waiting to see those things manifest. And I can admit that I have gone up and down, and sometimes I'm like, well, it's taking too long. I guess he won't do
Right.
it. But like you said, you have to become just steadfast, unmovable, not letting go of his promises and understanding that, what, if he said it, it's going to come to pass.
If he
So we
said it, that settles it.
that settles it. And that's so awesome. Like you said, if he said it, it settles it.
Yeah.
So, and I know you mentioned we already talked about how we can incorporate our faith into our professional life. Is there any other tips and tools that you can share with business owners or leaders in order for them to share or be able to incorporate their faith into their professional life?
Yeah, so I think, in the workplace, we have to recognize because a lot of times it's not going to be acceptable, to say some of the things that we might need to say. So oftentimes in the workplace, it's, if we recognize that our life should be a light, and if we focus on being the type of person that is, then people are going to follow us and people will be attracted to that. So one of the very first podcast episodes that I did of the Faith First Leadership podcast, I interviewed a lady and she was saying that she worked in an environment where it was frowned upon, to talk openly, about
Right,
your religion. And you definitely don't need to be going to people and saying, let me pray for you, or,
right,
have you thought about
right,
giving your life over to Christ? Like she said,
right.
a quick way to lose your job, right?
Sure.
So what she did was she just focused on living the way that God says she should live. And so when people are like, you always seem so unbothered, you always seem so happy, there just always
Mhm.
seems to be something about you when you come into the
Yeah,
room. Then she can take that opportunity to say, it's just
that's
Jesus.
it. That's it.
And then she found that, that people might pursue her outside of that, or like, hey, let's go to lunch together. I want to hear more about, like kind of, I want to hear a little bit more about your Jesus.
Yeah,
But in your
exactly.
personal life, if we're looking at how we continue to put faith first, is that make it a non-negotiable and recognize that it has to be first.
Right.
Like that's why everything that I'm doing, I did a summit, it was the Faith First Summit. And we were
Mhm.
talking about the spiritual principles that drive leadership success. My podcast is the Faith First Leadership Podcast.
Right.
My business program is Business Building Basics for Bible Believers because I
Right.
recognize that when your faith, just like any other value, is something that becomes a non negotiable, it's going to become the compass by which you do everything. It's
Right.
going to become the compass by which you make all of your decisions. So,
Right.
and then it just becomes knee jerk reaction.
Sure.
right? It's like, it's not even something you have to think about. Like, just like you may wake up first thing in the morning and grab your phone, then you
Right.
just begin to grab your faith.
Right. Right. That's it. And where can they, you mentioned your podcast and you call it Faith First. Where can they find your podcast to listen to it?
So they can go to anywhere if they're already a podcast person, they can go anywhere that they're currently listening to podcasts,
Okay.
or you can go to faithfirstleadership.com and that'll take you straight to where you can listen to some of the episodes. There's a
Okay.
couple of places on there where you can go to some of the podcast platforms. But if you listen on Apple Podcasts, if you listen on Spotify, like wherever it is that you can find your podcast, um, just Google it, Faith First Leadership, it'll be there. If not, you can go to faithfirstleadership.com and it'll take you directly to it.
We have a question. Elena asked, what is the best way to get back on track quickly after a major failure?
Recognize that failure, as long as you're failing forward, is really not failure. Failure is part of the process. So the sooner, Elena, that you can recognize that it is just part of the process, the faster that you can shake it off and move forward. And then ask yourself, what was I supposed to learn? Number one. And then the second thing that you have to ask yourself, Elena, is what could I have done differently? And then the third question you have to ask yourself, in what area did it seem like it was because I did not know exactly what it was that I was doing, so that you now can go access the resources that will show you how to do those things better going forward. And then recognize you're going to fail again. You shouldn't continue to be failing in the same areas, but you're going to continue to fail again. When they talk about failure, they say the only thing that you fail at, or the only shots you don't make are the shots you don't take, right? And so failure is part of the process. I mean, if I could just raise every hand and toe and finger and everything that I have to show you the number of times that I considered that it failed, but I learned so much more from those failures. I think I have learned just as much, if not more, of when I learned what not to do than what I have learned about what to do. Those what not to do's and those things that we would classify traditionally as failures, Elena, are usually the best lessons. You won't do that again.
Right. So, and that's the best way to also show that we're growing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that we're learning from those lessons and not repeating those lessons over and over again. Just like in a relationship, you know what? If someone is saying, hey, you're doing this and this and that, it's a sign of growth when you're not repeating those same things. Or even in school, a sign of that we're being promoted, that
Yeah,
we're able to pass that test and we're able to grow and learn from those things and move forward. So that's so
absolutely.
awesome. So,
Absolutely. Great question.
yes, thank you, Elaine, for that question. So, audience, this is a great time if you want to ask Shana any questions. As we're wrapping up this interview, please ask her your
You're
questions.
welcome.
Ask any questions that you may have, or if we can put back up how to get in touch with Shana in order to connect with her, to schedule a consultation, to be able to ask her questions to see if she will be a good fit for you, is shiftstrategysession.com. And be ready. Don't hit, if you're hemming and hawing still, don't reach out. Don't waste her time. She's a very busy woman. Her time is
Don't
very
get your feelings
valuable.
hurt.
She said, "Don't get your feelings hurt,
Don't get
y'all."
your
So
feelings
look,
hurt.
this is what she's saying. Don't get your feelings hurt. If you reach out to Shana, you better be ready. So
Yeah,
don't play
I'll
around.
tell you in love, but yeah,
We
you
love
need
you,
to
but
you need to be ready to move.
yeah, and and
And
and
move looks different for everybody, right? So
right,
there's not a one size fits all. Everybody's solution is not the same. Everyone's situation
right,
is not the same. But I can tell you, I've been in this vein of business coaching and leadership development and personal development since at least 2007. And so I'm not sure that there's many challenges that you could have that I have not seen and either overcome myself or help someone else overcome. But you need to be committed that you're ready to do something about it, not just talk about it.
and
Okay,
so
I was gonna say you're on mute. Yeah.
okay. So are there any last minute tips or strategies or just suggestions or advice that you would like to share with our audience? And they're still probably. I wanted to ask you this. I don't know if you don't mind. I wanted to go back and ask.
You can ask me anything you want.
uh, you mentioned a lot about pain a lot of times people don't want to invest in themselves. They don't want to invest and put forth the money to hire someone with your expertise or, just to help them. So they figure, you know what, let me try to figure this out myself. And
Yeah,
it ends up costing them more. Is there anything that you can kind of maybe share that you share with people when they're like, I don't know if I want to pay that or should I invest in
absolutely.
myself?
Absolutely. What's it going to cost you if you do nothing? Because there is a cost that is associated with doing nothing. It's going to cost you your joy. It's going to cost you your fulfillment. It's going to cost you your time. It's going to cost you your money. It's going to cost you your legacy. It's going to cost you something to do nothing. So
Right.
count the cost, right? So before we start to count the cost of what is it going to cost me in order to do this, there's an
Mhm.
opportunity cost for doing nothing. So what's it going to cost you to keep doing what you've been doing?
Right. That sounds good to me. So you heard that, everyone. So it's going to cost you something. So it's better
Everything is
to
going to cost you something.
everything costs. I mean, and I noticed too, people pay for what they want to pay for.
Mhm.
People invest in what they want to invest in. So if they really have a desire to get this business off the ground or to do what they need to do, they will pay for the services. So
Absolutely. And here's what I know, Miranda. There's a difference, and this is what I will leave the audience with. There's a difference in being interested and being committed.
mm,
Now, I'm interested in losing weight. But if you look in my pantry, you will notice that I'm not committed,
right.
right? So when we're interested, we come up with excuses. When we're interested, we quit when it gets hard. When we are committed, on
Hmm.
the other hand, and the only thing God wants from you is your yes.
Right.
The
That's
how is
it.
none of your business.
Wow.
But here's what I know, when you show up and you're committed and you
Right.
say yes, that's when the house shows up. That's when the
Exactly.
resources show up. That's when the people
Exactly.
shows up. And let me just say this. I told you I've invested probably close to $200,000 in training and coaching. I never
Right.
knew how I was going to pay for it. Not one single time that I know how I was going to pay
Right.
for it. Now, when I
Hmm.
went and bought a $297 program, I knew how I was going to pay for it because I just put it on my debit card and kept it pushing. But when
Yeah.
I was in a $35,000 mastermind,
Right.
I had no idea how I was going to pay for it. When I
Right.
was in a $50,000 mastermind, I had no idea how I was going to pay for it.
Right.
Right. But every single month, when it was time to make that payment, guess
Yeah.
what I had? The
You
resources.
have to.
Guess why
Mhm.
I had them? Because I was committed and I wasn't just interested.
Wow.
So I
That's
want your
good.
listeners to ask you, are you interested or are you committed? And
Right.
if you're committed, you don't have to worry about the how. The how is going to show up as a result of your yes. Will you say yes? God just
That's
wants your
it.
yes.
And I think that's where our faith comes in. Our faith comes in as we make that move. If we
Yes,
sign up and say, God, I trust you that this is what you have for me to do. You want me to learn this information. You want me to receive these resources. So I am trusting you, Lord, that if you're telling me this is what you want me to do, I'm going to trust that you will provide.
if he
If you
gives you the vision, you think he's not going to give you the provision?
provision, exactly.
I'm just saying what I'm trying to
Exactly.
say.
If that's what he told you to do, he's going to make a way. He's going to clear a path. You have to
Absolutely.
trust. It's going to be a little scary at first, like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going to happen. But if we step out on faith, God will meet us there.
He sure
I
will.
believe that. I believe he will meet us there. He will make a way. He will provide. Like he said, he is our provider. We have to give him back his word. Lord, you said you would provide. You
Yeah.
gave me this. You said you was going to do it. I'm trusting you to do it, Lord.
He
So
hasn't failed me yet.
he hasn't. He won't. That's it. Interested versus being committed. And that's it.
That's it.
We have to be committed.
Yeah.
So as we wrap this up, because, thank you so much, Kimberly. She's such an awesome woman of God as well. Thank you so much for all of you who have joined us on tonight. If you have missed any part of this amazing interview, please go back and watch the replay. But before we wrap up, Shana, we ask all of our guests, what makes you a bougie girl? Bougie is a movement. The revolution will not be televised. We are moving forward as bougie girls. Bougie is the acronym for bold, one of a kind, unbothered, God's girl, intentional and elegant. So, what makes you a bougie girl?
So the first thing that I really identified with that is bold. I've always been bold.
Hmm.
But baby, listen. When I
Yes,
accepted the authority that I have in Jesus Christ, I got a boldness on my life right now that is like none other, right?
yes,
So I identified with that. And then, the things that are floating around now that it's like, if fill in the blank was a person and you see a picture, if unbothered was a person, you would see my
that's
picture,
you.
sometimes almost to a fault, because I have mastered being unbothered. And I can tell you that there have been so many times that I'm grateful that I'm not bothered because it doesn't shake me. I see
Yeah,
what shakes some other people. I'm like, boy, bye, child, bye. Like, I'm
right,
so unbothered. Now
right.
don't get me wrong. There are some things that will make my blood boil hot,
Sure,
but
sure.
but most of the things, child, if unbothered was a picture, if unbothered was a person,
Spokesperson. You be the spokesperson person.
man, listen, you open
Love
up that dictionary and you see me.
it. Yes, like unbothered, Shayna.
I'm unbothered, child.
Right. And there's a difference between being concerned or being, like you said, or unbothered. Some
Yeah,
things concern us. They irritate us or whatever, but we can't worry about what other people think about us. We're unbothered. That doesn't bother me. What you think about me does not bother me. How you feel about what I'm doing. Oh,
yeah,
you shouldn't do it like that. I mean, if you're trying to give me constructive criticism and saying, hey, let me help
sure.
you, like you said, but if you're just pointing your finger, oh, girl, you don't do it like this, or girl, I'm not bothered by
I'm
that.
so not bothered. And if I give energy to every little thing
Yeah,
that pops up, what do I do
right.
when something big pops up that really deserves my energy? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I've got my child that's being attacked spiritually. I've got a
Right.
grandmother in the hospital. I now have an aunt who has lost a husband. I need energy
Right.
to carry that mantle. I don't have the
Right.
energy for that if I'm bothered by every little
You
thing that
can't
comes up.
be.
I don't
You
have time for
can't.
that.
You don't have time.
Yeah,
And as a woman who's making moves and doing what she has to do, you can't carry that weight. You cast your cares onto God and you're unbothered. So we're moving on.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you so much for your time on today.
Thank you
If
for
we can put
having
back
me.
up her website, you all, if you want to get in touch with Shana Rattler, you can find her here on Facebook. She's on
I'm
Instagram.
Shana Speaks everywhere. So as long as you spell my name right with a Y, Shayna, I'm Shana Speaks on Facebook and I'm Shana Speaks on Instagram as well. I
Yeah.
share most of my insights on Instagram,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to those impromptu downloads that I get and I go live and share, kind of
Yeah.
my revelations and things that are on my mind. I
Right.
do most of that on Instagram. So I would recommend going to Instagram and following me at Shana Speaks.
And also, if you want to get be a part of some of her amazing live webinars, like she said about being overcoming burnout and getting unstuck, she offers some free webinars. So please go on there and check out some of that amazing, rich information that she's offering for free, free 99,
Yeah, for $3.99 forever.
forever,
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 ever,
ever,
forever.
forever, ever.
This is what you get, y'all. I'm bougie. I'm a little bit ghetto. I'm country. I'm funny. I'm silly. Like, you're gonna get all of that. So I'm
Right,
not
all of
one of those
it.
people that's gonna come on here and be like, and then yes, this is what thus says the Lord. And
I
then you get me,
know.
I'm like, child, like this is what
Look.
you get. Like, you get all this in this little package.
And that's the fun part, and that's what we like here on Bougie Girl Cyber Happy. We want you to be yourself. We want you to be
Yeah.
real, down to earth, because we a little hood over here too. We like a little, we a little something, something,
Yeah,
but
a little
we
about
do.
it. You can
We
be bougie
about
and about it.
yeah, we a little about it. You know what I'm saying?
Don't get me
So
started
yeah,
clowning on him, Miranda.
I, we a little, a little sprinkle of everything in here. Every now and then, a little ratchet. A little
Yeah,
something
yeah,
every now and then.
yeah. Everything in moderation.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So thank you so much, Shana, for
You're
being
welcome,
on
sis.
here. If you all miss any of this, go back and watch the replay. This has been so much fun. Thank you all for joining us. And I just want to tell my Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour audience, we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Please go to Teespring and order one of these T-shirts. As you can see,
I'm
I'm
waiting on
bougie.
mine to come in the mail.
Yes, hers is on the way. Woo-hoo.
It's
So
been
please.
shipped.
Yay. Thank you so much for supporting us. Order a t-shirt. We have different designs on there. We have mugs on there. We have tank tops to work out in. So when
Yes.
you're at the gym, you can be bougie.
But
So
I'm just interested, not committed. So I ain't gonna be in nobody's gym. So I saw that tank top and I was like, oh, that's cute. Where I'm wearing that to bed.
bed, right. That's it. That's it. It is too hot to be doing all of that. These gyms are closing down again too. I don't want to get
Yeah,
corona. I'm good.
yeah. I'm good.
Yeah, so please join the group, the movement. We are a group of women who are encouraging one another, uplifting one another. We're praying for one another. We're going to be praying for Shana as she travels to visit family
Thank
uh,
you.
due to some recent losses that she has had. So keep her lifted in your prayers. Continue to pray for all of us. We're praying for you. We love you all. Thank you so much for being a part of this movement. We love you. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
Good
Bye,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
See you later. Thank you.